Hope everybody's enjoyed the other dreams that I've had. I'm just saying right now, we're fixing to look at some dreams that some other people have had, and I got like 3 of them right here. They're pretty interesting. So here's the first dream that somebody else dreamed. I didn't dream this. This was a dream they told me. That they had gone north on Highway 41, in Georgia, and they had gone to where they were going, to the north. Well, they were heading back south on 41 to get to their hometown where they spent their whole life. Well, they hit, a construction work zone. It was a bridge construction zone and a detour sign at the construction zone. And this party drove around and couldn't find their way, home, where they had lived all their life. And, they drove in circles all night trying to figure out how to get around the detour. It got dark, and hours and hours they did this. So finally, they could not find their way around the work zone or detour, never made it back to their hometown and their house that was in that hometown. They woke up. That's the first dream. The second dream someone told me was this, that they went out, way out in the country, driving their own SUV. And they were way out in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and got stuck in the sand. And they were just sitting there, spinning their wheels, and, sank down and never could get unstuck and never got out of the sand. They woke up. And the third dream, I can tell the year when they dreamed this, 1978. And this was a recurring dream. This person dreamed they were at their house. It was in the middle of the night. A flood and washout came. Then a loud voice said, "I must run and tell the king the sky is falling." And they were packing up things, and it was so dark they couldn't see to leave, and the dream was from 1978. And back to the first dream, the construction zone was at 411 and Tennessee Street. Tennessee Street to the south, 411 to the north highway, and they couldn't find their way home. Big red detour sign. And they would think the interpretation was silly, but I think that the faith community, it'd be good for the faith community to know what those dreams mean. It should say this: this person had gone north. Heaven is north. Job 41:18 is bondage. 41, Job 41. Today's the 18th. That happens to be, we're interpreting this dream. And they were in their homeland, and they went and did what they needed to do. The going and doing to the north represents this life. So it was getting toward the end of their life. They were heading south on 41. The children of pride head south. And Job 41 tells you about that. To get to their hometown. Well, heaven is home, and this life's a journey from heaven or birth to death. So this hometown was where they spent their whole life, representing this life. Well, they hit bridge construction. It was a work zone and a detour sign. Well, without Jesus, you can't go to heaven. That's the bridge. You see, the passive words, love will build a bridge. Well, there was a detour sign. The enemy has a plan to detour our lives where we'll go down to the south to hell. And, you know, Jesus constructs a bridge. And that's why it was bridge construction. And this party couldn't find their way to the town where they lived. And you know, when it came time to go back to heaven after this life was over, they didn't have Jesus and couldn't get in. And it got dark. You know, when you go down to hell, it gets dark. They drove around the construction zone for hours, you know, representing the short vapor of this life. Hours. Couldn't find their way around the work zone because they didn't know Jesus. Or the detour. They couldn't get past the detour because they didn't have him. And you know, sadly, you know, never went to heaven because they didn't believe this stuff. And they thought their dreams were silly and they didn't know it was serious business, and sadly won't know it till the time's up, the meaning of this dream. That's sad. So he never made it back to their hometown nor their house. And the construction zone was at 411 and Tennessee Street. Well, see, the music of America, you know, Nashville is in Tennessee. You know, Memphis, all the things to do, you know, are in Tennessee. You know, I had a dream one time there was a Babylon, Tennessee. You know, the things to do. So Tennessee Street goes to the south. You do the things of Babylon, you know, you go down, and Highway 411 was on the other side of the bridge. And just say it like this, because he wouldn't get saved, that highway was for judgment and disorder. The number 11 represents. That's the meaning of this. And the detour sign was the plan of the enemy, and sadly they didn't find their way around it. And that's why they woke up never getting home. That's the first dream. The second dream, they were way out in the country. And you know, the Bible talks about a country. Driving their own SUV, that's their own chariot. You know, in the big picture of the journey of this life to get back home. They were way out in the woods, and there was a lot of different words they were sorting through in their mind. Out in the middle of nowhere. You know, if you're not saved, you don't go anywhere. Your life comes to nothing. And they got stuck in the sand, and you know, anything built on sand, you know, will fall. A house built on sand. So they got stuck in the sand and were just spinning their wheels. And you know, if you're in self, you just spin your wheels. And never could get unstuck out of the sand, and without Jesus you never get unstuck. And he never got out of the sand. He woke up. So the third dream, another person dreamed they were at their house. It was in the middle of the night. The middle of the night represents like a bad time of war, a bad time of trouble, you know, a horrible test, or, you know, trial. Nighttime represents darkness or the enemy. It was in the middle of the night. A flood and washout came. The waves come upon Babylon. That's the flood and washout. Then a loud voice said, I must run and tell the king. Well, Jesus is the king. It's pointing to the king. The sky is falling. You know, Lucifer will be kicked out of heaven down to this earth. The sky is falling. And they were packing up, and it was so dark. And you know, if you're unsaved, it gets dark. They couldn't see to leave, or they couldn't see to go the right direction. They sadly lost their soul. And that dream was from 1978. There's 3 more dreams that I didn't dream, but somebody else, some other people I know dreamed. And take those meanings to God. I'm saying don't read Chad, go read your Bible. That's the meaning that comes to me over those dreams. And sadly, most people think that's very silly and is nonsense.